Welcome back to Cocktails and Dreams. Recently, I traveled to Knoxville, Tennessee to meet with a group of savvy short term rental investors and agents and found a guy who gets it. So I wanted to introduce you to him. Cory King is all about creative strategies, big ideas, and a real passion for real estate. He's been in the game since '09, so he knows a thing or two. Since his first house hack to building a strong investment portfolio, he's got experience across all aspects of the business, from off-market deals to working directly with investors. And his approach, it's not just about closing deals, it's about finding new ways to build wealth and deliver value to clients and a community. Cory's story is hands-on, and it's no nonsense. And he's taking real estate from his early days of flipping vacant lots in Florida to helping clients build multi-million-dollar portfolios. He's built a reputation for finding off-market deals and making smart, creative plays. He's also deeply invested in building a community and running local investor meetup that's grown to nearly 2,000 members. His passion for grinding, whether it's through strategic flips or identifying the right rental markets, really shines through. And as always, don't forget to share, subscribe, and rate the show. Leave a review. It really helps us bring these stories to entertain and educate you. So now let's dive into this chat with Cory King.
Cory, yeah, thanks for mentioning the Lake Longboat project. That's a very interesting thing for me and my business partners as we're pioneering this micro resort concept. I mean, in our market in Branson, Missouri, what we saw investors do over time. So originally, somebody who doesn't invest in real estate might jump into a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, maybe a short-term rental, just because they're sort of the gateway investment for people. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they'll buy, a 4-bedroom, they'll do 1031 exchanges, they'll kind of roll everything up. And that's kind of what we did. And we got tired of really the onesie-twosie condo stuff, and we really wanted to sink our teeth into something. So that's kind of why we launched this micro resort concept. It's a little bit farther outside of a tourist area. So what we're doing is we are essentially creating a new market, which isn't really what anybody wants to do. You want to be able to start a property and just instantly fill it with bookings. And that's been the case about 30% of the time. But it's also an interesting and unique enough concept that people are like, okay, now what is this now? I mean, there's land here. I mean, I can stay in a short-term rental, but I can stay in this land. And I think what we're finding is that Airbnb isn't our audience, so we're having to find some really cool new ways to push forward. So we're kind of a pioneer. I can tell you are too. Met you in Knoxville not too long ago. And so talk to me a little bit about you. How did you get started in the real estate biz?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so my journey in real estate started when I was 22, 2009 for reference. So just kind of post-crash, market was still shifting at that point. But it really started out for me as just becoming a homeowner, right? I recognized the opportunity there and a little bit of like kind of FOMO as I had friends who were graduating college. And for me, it was a little bit of a, what do I have to show for this kind of thing? So buying a home, being $100,000 in debt, like one way or the other, it seemed like a good play. So did that at House Hacked, which was really fun. Got some roommates, right? They rented out the other 2 bedrooms in a 3-bedroom house, offset my mortgage, and was just able to start saving and playing around, going to auctions in 2010 through 2013 in Florida, kind of buying those vacant lots in halfway built subdivisions that crashed during that crash, right? The builders went out, and so there's a lot of vacant lots. So I found a fun little side hustle of buying those lots between like you and your neighbor's house, let's say, for $3,000 at an auction, and like flipping it to a neighbor for 8 to 10, and making a nice little spread, right? And go back and so I did that for a couple of years. It's just something that, not with the idea of getting into real estate as a career. I was a restaurant owner at that point in time. So it was just something kind of fun to do, make some money, bring my friends along. And then when we moved to Tennessee in 2018, I sold a chunk of that restaurant business. Really left for me, like, well, I know I didn't want to stay in that field. Like, loved hospitality, but wasn't really where I wanted to go with that next part of my life. And so having, been, I guess, doing some real estate transactions or just kind of haphazardly kind of playing around, getting a career into it seemed like the next logical step as something I could start to buy and sell my own stuff and educate people along the way. And that's now just been, just a continued effort since then, right? I've now been focused on the agent and investor side of things and working with clients and help showing them how to do it, as well as those that make me not be interested. They just want to buy and sell and move and don't have any interest in the investing side. But for me, that's my passion.
Let's unpack some of that. So, what
Sure.
kind of restaurant did you own?
Yeah, it was called Long Doggers in Brevard County, Florida. So the Space Coast. I joined there with the kitchen crew for like the second opening for that little mom and pop kind of franchise, and then we grew that and just asked the right questions. I think my growth inside of that company was really just from asking good questions, like looking to leadership, just trying hard, asking, hey, can I sit in on the manager meetings kind of thing? And yeah, just kind of grew from there. It was really a lot of fun.
So, did you start off as an employee and work your way up into being an owner, a shareholder
That's
of that?
that's right. Yeah, I started off as just a line cook with them at 19, and just worked my way up through like an assistant manager to the big management roles. So at 24 was when I got the option to become the GM and buy into the company, and I become an owner operator for like that very place I started at.
Was it an independent company or a franchise?
Like mom and pop kind of independent company. That was their second restaurant that they were opening. And so now there's six, which is really cool growth from, but all still inside of that county.
Wow, phenomenal. So that's kind of exemplifies something about you, which is, talent. So talent pushes, right? If you bring somebody onto your team and you feel like they're really pushing you to be better, or you haven't gotten your, what together, so your talent will push you. Whereas people who are not talented will sort of sit and wait for direction. But it seems like you were the kind of guy that they were really looking to give leadership responsibility to. And it seems like you were so good, they wanted to honor you with the
Yeah.
ability to own a piece of it. Is that kind of how it was?
Yeah. And, I'm super grateful for that. It was definitely a lot of, I'm always passionate about the work that I do in general. I take a lot of pride in what I put out and produce. And so for that business, it was a really opportunity. I saw, how busy just we were and just the model, and start just kind of observe, right, what was really happening here, and recognize that there was an opportunity to really grow within this. So then it just became a goal at that point. Cool. I'll pick up the overtime that people, notorious to me not want to pick up. I'll take the extra day, what have you, just to find myself. And then we would do these manager meetings, like the GM meetings, and they would kind of rotate around to each restaurant. So each time that they would come to mine, I would just ask like my manager, hey man, as long as I've got everything done, it's early in the morning, can I just come sit and be a fly on the wall? Like, won't say a word, but just can I hear what's going on? Yeah, no problem. Right. And so then it was just that, taking the initiative, asking the right questions, sitting in the room, hearing what was going on, and just, giving feedback when prompted. But it certainly builds trust, rapport, work ethic. Right. And they're fortunate. I mean, they really saw that in me, and I was able to really help them grow. It's awesome. Like, I still think I'm a little biased, but I do think that that's probably the best restaurant group in the country by far.
Tons of initiative there. Like how rare is it to see somebody who shows that level of initiative? And those are the people that we really want to sow into. It's kind of like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Sure.
I've tried to really lead a lot of real estate agents to success, but a lot of them don't really want to get past their comfort zone. I mean, this is true for people in general, but I think realtors in general, just because it's a commission only basis. So we're constantly having to evaluate what we want to invest in our business and, what we want to use to operate our business. What did you learn from the restaurant industry that you've taken with you into your entrepreneurial endeavors now?
Yeah, I love that. In fact, I actually think that anyone, if they're getting into real estate, let's say like the second career, the second job, right? Those that have a background in hospitality, say nursing, like, I mean, true, like hospitals say, right? Like nurses do well, or teachers, like education. If you have a background in that, I firmly believe you have an unfair advantage compared to most that get into this space, because you're used to working like long hours on your feet, running around for either like delayed pay, right? Or you're interacting with 100 people probably a day, a busy restaurant between your coworkers, customers, etc. You're bartending like 100 contacts, easy. You're going to talk to that many in that time. Nursing, same. Teachers, right? Same deal. You've got a classroom of 30 kids. They're going to have their parents, etc., PTA meetings, what have you, your co-working staff. So you get a lot of face time with people. So you start to recognize patterns and personality and how different people respond. And you start to you can really reference that, right, in life. You can meet somebody now and be like, oh, like, I know you. You don't like look like you, but I remember you from like this person. I threw you out of my bar one time, right? This is this one parent kind of thing. You can recognize that. So I think you get a lot of just at bats with communicating with people, and you learn to build trust, because there's a team effort in all of that. In all of those fields, there's definitely a collective thing. It's not a solo endeavor to that extent, right? So I think then once you maybe do transition in this business, and either you choose to do it as a solo endeavor, well, you've got a lot of just work ethic and experience behind it. The caseload seems pretty easy. I know when I got into it and I started my business really just prospecting and cold calling, 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, just grinding it out, and then go door knock an hour a day, probably 3 days of the week. And for me, I found it relatively easy in the sense of, well, I could go to the office, I could sit in an air conditioned space, I could probably have like Sports Center on in the background, and all I got to do is just like make phone calls for like 3 hours, like easy peasy. It would certainly be like roofing a house or being in like a kitchen somewhere, right, with 100+ degrees. And so I was like, this is cool. I can just talk to people, make friends, create conversations. So I do believe that. I think if you've got those backgrounds, you've definitely got an unfair advantage compared to most.
In those first few conversations that you were having, when you were picking up the phone, were you looking for listings or were you looking for buyers?
Listings primarily. That was something I did a lot of YouTube University, just I'm sure like many people do, right, when they're getting into this. It's just so I found a couple of my gurus or people I looked to online for that, and they were just all heavy kind of prospecting based, but listing focused. That was always the message that I understood, was just go talk to people that already own property. And if you're, in cold calling like I was, it was cool that you could just pick the homes that you want to go sell, right? Like you could procure that data for basically pennies, and you want to sell over there, like just go call those people, right? It's pretty straightforward. Make friends with them, create a conversation. There might be some opportunity right now. There might be opportunity in 4 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. Well, I want to get paid all the way through that. So whether I get somebody wanted to transact now, right, or 6 months from now or a year from now, cool, right? So that was a pretty straightforward like concept to understand for me, that I could just go out and say prospect, meet new people, and grow a business, right? Grow a network.
I think you're right. The way you talk about it, it does seem like an unfair advantage coming from that industry, because in the restaurant industry, you set up a building, you have food, you've attracted people to come into the food. You've had to do a really good job of serving them the first time they get there, so they come back. You also have to do a really good job of taking care of people when they're there, so that they talk about the restaurant when they're not there. Also, it has to be clean, and you've got to have some kind of advertising so that people who haven't been can come see that. But you're right. You're really in conversations all day. And that's the one thing that I think sets successful agents apart in their first year, is because they're getting into real estate conversations. And we talk about this in our trainings all the time, every sales meeting. It's always about how many real estate conversations are you getting into regularly, constantly. And if you're not getting into those conversations with some type of nugget or something that's going to help people, then maybe it's time to pick up the phone and ask somebody if they have any real estate needs right now. And what's funny about real estate is that it really is one of those industries where people are going to need it at some point in time. I mean, we've noticed since I've been in a full market cycle now, that whenever things happen, like interest rates go up and people don't buy, or whether a COVID happens and people take their listings off the market and people don't sell, or even in 2008, 2009, I'm sure you've noticed this, when no lenders would lend on any property and no builders were building any property. I mean, no inventory was being created, but yet the human race is still populating. We're still growing humans. We're still producing more humans, and people die, things change. And so real estate services and the intensity of the legality and the emotion that surrounds that was always going to need a really strong, well-educated, caring practitioner that has context as well as data. And data is more important now than ever before, it seems like. But without a doubt, getting into those conversations are important, because when things do finally bust loose, there's this pent up demand that makes everything go crazy. I mean, COVID is the perfect example. we were totally shut down for, a little while, depending on where you were and what color your state was and how long you were shut down. But regardless, this pent up demand happened after COVID. It happened after 2008, 2009. It's happening. It's about to happen again now that this election's about to happen, and people, I think, are going to get on with their lives. I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Life happens, right? So you can't predict it, like to an extent. I mean, some folks, when you're having conversations, you can, if you ask good questions and you listen intentionally, you can actually uncover the opportunities. And somebody might say, well, yeah, we'd be moving, as the kids are graduating high school, and you find out, the kids are like 15. So, okay, so we're probably 2-3 years out at the earliest from realistically doing anything. Fair enough, right? That's a life circumstance. But life happens. And so then it's just a matter of top of mind, right? Helpful throughout that, really just coming from a place of contribution with no expectation of receiving anything, say, on the backside of that. It's just a way to give it away. People appreciate that. People pick up on that, really, right? And it's genuine. And when that time comes, then you end up being the one that they just call for that need or refer somebody out, as their friends or family might have a life event that you could then come in and help with.
Yeah, it seems like you recognized early on this concept. It's like you owned a home, and you sort of realize that, hey, you know what? I'm already a real estate investor. I already own a home. And I think that's one of the successful things that me and my team have done, is just helping people understand that it's not that hard and that retirement is approaching faster than your ability to save. So let's spend some time together. Let's educate you in real estate investing to see if a real estate portfolio would be good for you, and see if it can help build wealth for your family. So at what point did you have those ahas that I want to not just be a residential real estate agent, but I want to be an investor agent?
Yeah, it was early in my career here that I guess I always thought of, I would kind of use my own thing for my own business, my own investments to a degree, but really with other people came through probably my first investor client that I procured here. It was so I had the listing, or it's an expired listing. It was this really kind of funky Frankenstein like triplex in South Knoxville where they converted the garage into a 2-story apartment. So this thing was wild looking. And my thought was, well, nobody locally is going to buy this thing. So let me just try. And I threw a $10 Facebook ad in Los Angeles, California, because it's just a massive population center. It's like, yeah, we'll just see what I hit. Like, it's just a lot of people. Cool. Let's see how far that gets me, kind of thing. Just trying, I guess, to a degree, trying stuff, right? So come across this guy, Declan. He gives me a call. He doesn't buy that property, but we hit it off. He has a property he's selling in San Diego and is looking to invest in Tennessee. And so he put a lot of faith in me, and I appreciated that opportunity in that I helped him go buy about 6 or 7 properties over the following probably about 8 months. I mean, we were like boogieing on stuff, right? Some stuff was cash and others was used as leverage, but I was the one to be his eyes, ears, nose, like boots on the ground, meet with the contractor, like put the contractor together, come in, fix the place up, help get it rented, all that. And I learned so much more, like just going through that, of meeting the home inspector and the contractors at every house and crawling under the crawl space. You start to learn that, like, this is what galvanized plumbing looks like, or here's your Federal Pacific panels. Like, you just get educated on how homes are built and the history of home building, and right, like what's a concern, what's not a concern, I guess, mostly. And so I'm grateful for that, because that was somebody who like put some faith in me. I was able to then return the favor. We took his $450,000, in total, like money. He was like leveraging, or like in between cash and loans. But he's got a nice portfolio here. It's probably worth close to $3-4 million, like at this point, like throughout it all. It was a good deal. We diversified, bought some small multifamily, some single family stuff. So that was it. Like, that was where I caught the bug. And then I was recognized, like, oh man, like he's doing kind of good. Like, I should just be going to do this as well. And so, it became, I recognized too that there was just that need for somebody who was really savvy on the investment side. And it became fun for me to go just learn as much as I could.
You bring up a really good point, because I think a lot of agents, especially newer ones or agents that really want to break into that investment niche, they feel like they have to know everything. I mean, there are certain personality types that have the, analysis by paralysis personality type, where they have to fully understand everything before they can go sell it. And then you've got people on the opposite end of that spectrum who are like, I'll sell anything and go get in trouble. And then, hey, Mr. Broker, I need you to help me get me out of this. Both have value, of course,
Sure.
especially if you're surrounded by a team that helps you, it helps to just be more aggressive.
Sure.
But you really don't need to know everything, because I've realized that some of those really, really savvy investors, they don't need education. They need an agent who's available. And I think they're okay settling for an agent that doesn't know everything yet, as long as that person can be their eyes and ears and boots,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you can be those three things to a savvy investor, then what you end up with is an invaluable education that you just described.
Mm-hmm.
It's, hey, you know what? I'm available. I used to say that in the beginning of my career, if I had a third arm growing out of my head, like no one would care, especially investors, because I picked up the phone,
Sure.
and I was able to go out to the property and send a video. Like I was able to be under a crawl space with my camera doing FaceTime with people. And that's what's most important to an investor. They will literally buy sight unseen. And they're evaluating the numbers on a property, and then you get the benefit of learning, oh my gosh, okay, this is important to an investor. This is important to an investor. You don't forget those things. So the next time you talk to an investor, you can ask those questions up front, makes you look good, because now you're demonstrating expertise. But you don't have to demonstrate expertise in the beginning, as long as you're demonstrating proficiency and, just the ability to be aggressive and get out there and pick up the phone, be present.
Yeah. The trade-off, like in the beginning, right, is like your time for the experience and like learning, but that trade-off, I'm telling you, is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars over the course of your career. It's one of the best trade-offs you could actually do, in my opinion, because you're just investing in yourself and your own education at that point. And so there is a bit of a time, right, money trade-off into all that, but it's so, for me, like one side for like the agent on that, just so the amount you learn over the course of that time is, it's invaluable, right? Because then you can take that with you forever. That's something you don't just lose that knowledge.
Right. Well, that's one of the reasons why I liked the short-term rental asset class, is because I was able to develop an expertise in that relatively quickly, just because of my hunger for that education. And so it was really fun for me to be able to walk into a room of seasoned investors and talk about this asset class, and just see their minds just kind of sort of explode like popcorn as I begin to, unpack the value proposition of the short-term rental industry. And that hasn't changed. So in addition to that, I mean, of course, opportunity zones came down the pipeline next. Then there's, grants that you can get now. And there's just being able to serve an investor that way, like a seasoned investor. And I think that's what seasoned investors are really looking for now. I think they're looking for agents who are data backed. They're looking for agents that don't just have opinions, but are based in data that you can actually prove it and show it to them. Because banks are bigger on data now. Everybody's bigger on data now. So it's almost like we have to have this. Have you noticed a change in your market? Like, are investors looking now for more data, or do you feel like they just kind of trust the agent? Or what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, so what I've seen in our market is definitely folks want to see more data, more proof of concept in there, show, evidence of success, right? Yes. Especially as in a lot of markets across the country. I mean, Knoxville is one of the most appreciated markets in the U.S. over the last 5 years. In fact, that may be the number one most appreciated market in the U.S. So with that, then certainly is going to come some hesitancy, where some folks have seen like, well, this home has like doubled in value in the last like 6 years or so. Like, yeah, it has. And so you have to be able to show that to people, and here's why, and then here's the success story of like this person, right, who say bought with us, and here's the evidence of success they've had, right? And always at least being the source of the source, right? I don't have to necessarily know what each individual property is necessarily going to rent for. I can have an idea because that helps me out on my own thing. But I'm also I have got great partners in the area that say specialize in property management, that they do know that data cold. They could tell you from this section of that same zip code to the other, you might change $200 a month in rent, for sure. And I'm just going to air traffic control and direct at that point, right? And loop them in and just, again, be the source of the source more so than just being it, right? And having everything here.
Definitely better for liability purposes for our business as a real estate too. Anyways, just a good practice to have. How have you noticed that investor behavior has changed from say, before COVID to after COVID? And the only reason why I use that is because that was really sort of a defining moment. I guess I should say post 2021, because we had this huge run up in the short-term rental asset class. And just so our audience knows, I met you in Knoxville at a short-term rental focused event.
That's right.
So, and then we've had some subsequent conversations. So I know that you have expertise in this area, which is why I'm asking. So what have you noticed? So let's talk about short-term rental investors first, and then investors in general. What have you seen in that change since 2021, like investor behavior or and actually feel free to just give us a snapshot of that Knoxville market.
Sure. Yeah. So our area, we've got two kind of major spots. We've got our Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. That's our main short-term rental market. That's about 30 minutes outside of, say, downtown Knoxville proper, 30, 45 minutes. And so that's, cabins in the mountains. And that market saw a massive boom kind of post-pandemic, right? Funny story. The same investor I mentioned, the kind of the first guy, we were under contract on 2 short-term rentals right as the pandemic started, and he backed out because he thought everything was going to change. Those properties for sure doubled in value. I can promise you that. He definitely kicks himself in the butt for backing out of that, right? Yeah. So that just saw a massive, massive run up in that market. Now out there, we've seen some cooling effect as more inventory's been built out there over the last few years. So what's trending out there now is definitely more of the amenities focused cabins. Say like your 2-bedroom, 2-bath Lincoln log on the side of the hill somewhere is not going to do nearly as well as the brand new stuff that's coming out, which is a lot of like brand new 4-bedroom cabins with indoor pools where it's more of an experience, and it's $1 million plus, right? Is realistically the price point in there. So to get to about $1.2 million and up is where you start to see those bigger cabins with the pools, where it's more of an experience where the family is going there to stay like at the property, and the property is kind of part of the reason for being there, in addition obviously to the nature around it. So those smaller cabins, those are seeing some softening in there where there's some good deals to be had. These are the properties that are maybe just poorly managed, or areas where you can go and pick up and add value and start to bring up that nightly rate or that occupancy more. For Knoxville, we see more of our short-term rental market trend along with like football season. You got the University of Tennessee downtown. And so as like the string here in October runs around, I've seen rates basically double to triple on home game weekends, say, than versus like otherwise. Property might otherwise rent for $150 a night, and it jumps to $500 a night for that Friday, Saturday to Sunday for the football game.
That's fascinating. I think that's one of the things that most people don't understand about the short-term rental industry. It used to be just vacation rental industry, but there's so many opportunities in those medical miles and those sports teams just for people to come and stay. And I think, frankly, if people are going to come stay in a city for longer than 3 days, a hotel is a little uncomfortable for people.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So one of the things I've noticed about the Sevierville, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge market is that Branson, my market, tends about 18 months behind that market. So I've actually studied the market for a long time, and I've seen the dinosaurs emerge, the big properties with those location-based amenities. And the same thing has happened in Branson. Like right now in Branson, there's only probably like 10 or 12 properties that have their own private indoor pool. And those things are booked all the time. And it just seems like the properties have to evolve like the dinosaurs did. They had to just get bigger and badder and bigger and badder so they could, so the bigger they got bigger than the predators, and the predators couldn't eat them. And so in this case, it's like we have all these big families traveling together, and they love it. I guess it proves that the short-term rental industry is a recession-resistant industry. People pool their resources. They travel together. They can have much nicer accommodations, things that you and I have been selling to people for the past, 10 years. But let's dive into this a little bit. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think people are traveling together in bigger groups like that? Why do you think these destination properties are more favorable than ones that don't have, like, say, indoor pools and things like that?
Sure. Yeah, I think a couple things come to mind in there. One, there's certainly just a dollar cost averaging if you get a group of people that can pool their cash and get a much nicer property that they can all collectively use. You know, my wife comes from a large family, so when we go travel somewhere, like we have to tend to get like a bigger home because there's just so many of us that end up there. Also, I think what comes to mind too is just the sense of community. I think the pandemic and that isolated time that a lot of people spent really kind of messed some people up, really, like where everybody came out of that just like craving connection and community and togetherness. And so that isolation, I think, caused this massive like rebound effect where, you know, creating community and just getting together and having proximity to people, even if it's like you're on Zoom, right? Like there's still a connectedness there that people really crave right now. And so the more you can provide people the opportunities to get together in general, like the more attractive you will be.
That's true. Yeah, I get that. I think that's very insightful too, because that's very true. I mean, if you just look at the spike in travel from when the lockdowns began and when they started to lift, the data shows that people will never miss out on the opportunity to travel ever again. I mean, global tourism went from complete shutdown to record numbers in just a very short window. So very insightful. That's fantastic. Okay, a couple of questions for you. And I ask you these questions not because like I'm trying to test you or stump you. I'm asking you these questions because I think you're incredibly intelligent and I really enjoy our conversations. And it's rare for me to find somebody that I can have these conversations with. And so I just want to pick your brain with these questions.
Cool.
No right or wrong. Just so where do you think the trajectory of the short-term rental industry is going right now?
I think those that continue to evolve can still do very well.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, either shift with the times, be nimble enough to be on the lookout for what amenities are there, and even just looking for some affordable alternatives that can still make a big impact, right? An example would be I saw a cabin out here recently that was otherwise like a decent cabin, but nothing outstanding. What they did have for them that I thought was really fun and cool was this John Wick-esque style Nerf gun wall. That I was like, that's amazing. It was maybe like $1,000 worth of like toys and stuff like that, but he had it presented well lit. It just looked awesome. I was like, me and my 3 boys would tear that up. Like that would just be wild, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I loved that. And I actually got a chance to talk to the owner and I just kind of was asking him some questions. I was like, how much was all that? How do you manage all the Nerf darts that inevitably end up like everywhere? He's like, well, you know, housekeeping helps keep up with some of the stuff. And I just put on like an automatic order from Amazon. I get like 1,000 little Nerf rounds delivered every so often, and that just keeps it going, right? But I was like, man, what a cool way to distinguish yourself that he does really well, like just by having little tweaks and fun things like that, make it attractive where he would otherwise have a fairly run-of-the-mill, quasi-dated property at this point. So I think if you can stay nimble like that and creative, understand that it's hospitality and not housing as an investor is a big mindset shift versus if you're, say, looking for the long-term kind of set it and forget it style of rental, where that's housing. I'm investing in housing at this point. You know, short-term is so dynamic and quicker turns and things. It's all hospitality. It's all customer service and experience that you can provide. And so again, those who can stay really like laser focused on the experience they're providing and just that concierge level of participation is really I think over the long haul, set yourself apart from everybody else.
I agree. So with the Nerf wall and the indoor pools, it seems like we're moving away from the trend of just having gathering areas and having more activity areas. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the difference, because with an activity area, you're kind of, it's done for you. And it's the same in digital marketing and everything else right now. It's like the general public, when you're marketing to them, we've moved away from the information age. Like information isn't so exciting anymore. Just to have information available, it's not so exciting. Just to have a space available, it's not so exciting. But to have information available in a done for you package, it saves you time. We've moved out of this information age and into an automation age. And so and essentially, maybe I'm stretching it a little bit here, but you're automating the ideas that they have to come up with on vacation. You're like, oh my gosh, here's this John Wick wall. I can totally see ourselves for hours entertaining the kids. You're like, yes, give that to me. Indoor pool, same reason. It's like, okay, now I don't have to pack up all my stuff, walk across the pool. There's this done for me pool right here in the lower level of the house. And I think you're right. I think you nailed it. That's definitely going to be a trend in this business for sure.
Yeah, for a lot of our investors in this market, when we talk about or analyzing properties, we break it up into three parts really. It's proximities, amenities, and views. For us, we're in the mountains, so you can have two. If you have two of the three, you're usually in pretty good shape. If you can have all three, then you're definitely going to put yourself in a good position to outstand from everything else, right? Proximity being proximity to the national park or proximity to Dollywood that we have here in our market, right? There's downtown Gatlinburg. Pigeon Forge has all of the dinner theater shows, etc. So proximity to those, tourism amenities that are there is going to be like important. The amenities that you have at your property, so allowed like the Nerf wall, mini golf, hot tubs, all the things like the experience. And you could have two of those things and maybe not have the views, but if you've got those two, you're close. You've got maybe more amenities or more attractive stuff. You're positioning yourself to stand out from the pack, right?
Yeah.
If you have all three, then you're in really good shape.
I agree. So are you working with basically, let me say this. Are you seeing new investors enter the short-term rental market, or are you working primarily with seasoned investors?
A mix of both. I'd say we probably handle more seasoned investors than we do new people that come through. But we definitely have the ability to help out like those folks that are just exploring this area. Maybe they've operated short term in other markets and they're looking to get in here and they would have questions. Hey, I hear maybe that market is softening and what is going to be the best way to go about that? And so we do our best to educate them and show, these are the areas. This is what's trending well. That if you're into this for like the long haul, this kind of what a good deal looks like. That's why new construction in this area is really outperforming a lot because it's just the new stuff, right? So we're seeing a lot of that. We call it like a mountain modern style. This is like style of cabin that's always been popular out in like Vail and other ski towns out west, but this is a lot of like wood, metal, glass, or more of a modern aesthetic feel that those are trending and doing really well. Again, the dated 2-bedroom Lincoln log is having a little bit harder of a time. So it's just working with somebody that's going to have that insight to help show this is why, and here's the numbers, this is why it's performing that way.
Yeah, good to know. Mountain modern. That's an interesting phrase. Back in 08, 09, when we were doing a lot of new construction, the buzzwords that we were using was upscale rustic. Because, the ladies liked the upscale, the dudes liked the rustic. So that was a good marriage because the women make most of the decisions in the family. So as long as it was, rustic enough for him, but upscale for her, it was a good mix. Definitely felt like they were, in the Ozarks here. Mm-hmm. What about not just the short-term rental industry, but just investors in general? What are people investing in? What are people looking for? Are people still looking to deploy money into real estate? What are you finding?
Yeah, we're still definitely seeing a strong trend of investors here in the greater Knoxville area. Our market really services well still for long-term, mid-term, short-term rentals. You can do some niche stuff like students. We have the University of Tennessee here, so I've got a few student rentals that do really well. So that our market can serve us a lot. For a lot of out-of-state investors, especially maybe it's their first either out-of-state investment or first investment property. Typically, we're leaning more towards a newer home, maybe in the last 20 to 30 years, as opposed to picking the inventory that, a lot of Knoxville can still have, which is 1930s, 40s, 50s era homes. Let's go for a little bit newer, take more of an appreciation play. Knoxville's been consistently chugging along. We had many years there of double digit, right, appreciation. I think we're leveling off into this period of about 7%. And so for those that are looking for just a stable area where they're picking up a nice home that might be a little bit dated, paint, floor, carpet kind of thing can fix. But you're going to see a strong appreciation, like year over year grow. So those investors are typically maybe higher income W-2 that are leveraging their investment more for a tax purposes than they are trying to create cash flow to live off of. I think this market, it's hard to find that. It's hard to find the 1% rule. It's not impossible. Those are just like harder to come by in the long-term space. So that's where getting niche specific can help. Student rentals, right? Mine well outperform that 1% rule. That's to a degree a lot what we're seeing. The fix and flip can still do well provided you're buying deep enough. You know, the last market over the last couple of years has made a lot of people look incredible and probably saved a number of people along the way with that appreciation, right? So when you're doing a fix and flip here, you definitely want to make sure you're at least, I mean, like anything, you make money when you buy it. So make sure you're buying deep enough, work with somebody that at least understands the numbers for the costs to do it. And those can still do okay. We picked up one about a week ago that we just started on, and that seems to be, knock on wood, on track and on budget.
Well, like we said, there's always people looking for a place to live,
Sure. That's right.
You can take a property, if you have a great contractor team, or maybe you're a contractor, you finish the basement, flip it. It doesn't take much, just create an opportunity for somebody to do it for them, right? Because a lot of people just won't go through the time, energy, effort. So find a property and fluff and buff a little bit. Might be tougher to make things work in this market with that type of strategy. But if you can actually dig in and provide more living areas, more bedrooms, those are the opportunities I think that exist. Do you do much multifamily in your area?
Yeah, I service multifamily typically upwards, like as the 12 to 16 unit, like on that side of things. I'm very comfortable in that space. My holdings we've got one duplex. The rest of our portfolio is single family. Mm-hmm. The inventory that's available is, we don't have as much as a lot of other markets though. Like I look up, I've got friends that are in Ohio and you could throw a rock and hit 9 duplexes. Like it's nothing here, right? It's not as common. And so we see people converting properties over. You find like that basement ranch with a kitchen and laundry in the basement, and suddenly it becomes like a non-conforming duplex, and that's where you can get just creative with the property. In fact, that's what we just bought to flip, was a property that we could, if we chose to hold it, I would split it and just rent it in separate levels. So we see more of that in here, and then we have one duplex personally right now, and with plans to build one spring of next year.
Cool. Well, let's talk about your team a little bit and you and what you are doing in real estate in the next, say, 2 to 3 years. What are your plans? How you want to grow your business? Who are you looking for? How can we help?
Sure. So I run a expansion team called the Casa Group here in Knoxville. It's based out of the Northern Virginia market, and it was I partnered up with my business partner, Justin Myers, and then our business partner, Rob Chavez, who runs the Casa Group up in Virginia. So we've launched this expansion team here, and collectively we've been running that. We've got about 4 agents in production. I would love to find 3 to 4 more agents to join our team coming here next year. I think that we're going to keep it just lean and mean, small and mighty, right? We're still able to turn a good amount of opportunities. And a big part of that business, I would say, is the investor meetup that we host every month. That's our grid investor meetup. And so it's right. We've got, so we host our grid Knoxville local investor meetup. These are 100% free. There's great communities all around the country, but it gives us an opportunity. That's given us an opportunity to make our own market, in that we started our community in 2021, in June of 21, with 11 people on a Zoom call. And this is just a once a month, get everybody together to discuss a topic along the journey of a real estate investor. And so we started on Zoom, then we went hybrid, like in the room, and live streaming. And now we're closing in on close to 2,000 local community members, and our meetups have about 100 to 120 every month in the room, which is amazing, because that's where a lot of these deals, your deals come from, your money connections, you're just contractors, anybody that I've ever needed from a service provider, anything, is from that room. And it's a great place for everybody to learn and grow together. I like to say, like, I'm not here to be a guru to pontificate on high. We're just real people doing real deals in real time, sharing our experiences with you and trusting you're going to share your experiences with all of us. We all get to learn and grow together. And that's been an amazing, amazing thing to have been a part of. Super proud of that.
Man, I think that's phenomenal. I think a lot of people, I think, don't pursue opportunities like that because it can be overwhelming. Like discipleship is a big deal for me. Marketplace ministry is a big deal for me. And I think for years, I always thought, well, I'm not a pastor. I never went to seminary, so I can't lead a Bible study. Until I realized that I had this aha that I'm like, I don't really need to be an expert. I only need to be an expert in my experiences. And I just need to be able to lead a discussion with other experts. And it's in those discussions that we find common ground and we learn together. And it's the same thing. It seems like with this grid organization, you've got an opportunity for, because I think you got an opportunity for people to connect and share experiences, because I think could be me hallucinating a little bit, but I think people are starting to get a little wary of gurus because of these big ticket items. Big ticket items are really hard to sell, but communities are fun to be a part of, especially if you can learn something, and they don't really cost much, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's completely free to participate in this. I'm not selling like books or tapes or courses at the back of the room. It's just a space for people to come and learn and grow together. And if you're brand new, like, fantastic, right? We're here to support you and show you this journey of real estate investing and just what it can do. And if you're a seasoned investor and you've done thousands of transactions, awesome. We want to learn from you. We want you in this community to share your experience, because I believe those that have been successful truly understand that no one succeeds alone, right? And we find way more abundance minds in the room than we've ever found the scarcity mindset people, right? Not that they've certainly come through, and they eventually kind of leave, right? Because they just are not around their tribe. Like, this is a group that's there to celebrate each other's wins and successes. Again, whether it's you just got your first deal under contract to you sold your thousandth property in the mix. Everybody's in there, and everybody asks really great questions. Some of the best questions you get are from some of your new folks, because coming fresh out of left field, maybe something nobody's ever asked before. And there's people in the room we can all crowdsource and learn together that way. Our meetings definitely flow as more of a guided discussion, right? Like, we have different topics of how to estimate repairs and renovations, right? Or where to find the deal, where to find the money, what's wholesaling, just some foundational elements and some sophisticated topics that we'll get into. In that, we're all able to, again, learn and grow together. We'll bring a speaker in, somebody as a panelist. We can talk about it to give everybody a high level overview. And then, cool, we've got an expert that we can do some Q&A and just have a great, really, truly like a town hall style meeting in that. And it's really powerful just to see some of the relationships that have formed in that room, lives that have been changed in that room. It's extraordinary. It's really cool.
That's why we do it. I've thought the same thing. I've thought the real estate investing is the one thing that the average Joe can do to kind of keep up with Wall Street and to kind of, build their portfolio so they can take their family on a few extra vacations, be the financial rock for their family. So I love that. I would love to get connected with the Grid organization and maybe do more with you guys. So I would love to, I'm definitely exploring that. I tend to be a pioneer. I tend to want to invent things on my own. But the older I get, the more I realize it's better to just kind of plug into an existing community. So that's where I'm at. I just want people who are already like me and like our investors that we can just plug into. So maybe we can connect more on that in the future.
Definitely.
And then is there anything before we go, like anything that any question that maybe I didn't ask you that you wanted to answer, or anything that's on the top of your mind that you really want to share with people, or any story that you feel is valuable that you want to share?
Yeah, I love that. I definitely, I guess, want to share maybe some stories in there, or just drive a point home that we touched on earlier, and that you don't have to know everything, right? You have to be willing, though, to go seek out those who do, and don't be afraid to just ask the question. Because people will, what I've found more than have not, will reach out to help, will explain things to you. We'll just tell you. You can go ask somebody, how did you do that? And they'll happily tell you how they did it, right? I think that's something I was fortunate to understand early on. That was literally part of the restaurant journey. It was just, hey, can I sit in on the meeting? I just want to listen and hear what's going on and see how this works. And nobody had ever asked them before. It wasn't like a rule that they were like, no, nobody can be in this. Just nobody had ever asked. It was just like, show the initiative, take the step, ask the question, take the person out to coffee, hit them up on their, the DM kind of thing. Just don't be afraid to put yourself out there to like ask the question, because really you can be just like one conversation away from changing your entire life. Right. So I definitely want to instill that for people, that just be brave, bet on yourself to go for it. Ask the question, right? Create the community. If you aren't finding it where you're at, create it. That was literally what came out for us at Grid. Was I'd gone to local meetups, and it was just a bunch of the old timers sitting around telling me about how they bought the properties for a couple postage stamps, and wouldn't tell you anything of like where they found the deal, where they find the money, because Lord knows like they had help too, right? No one succeeds alone. But I found this very closed-minded thing. So then it became, what if we just went and opened one of these? What if we just went ahead and created this community? And it's been amazing to see that. So I love that, right? I love really being able to be the curator for that room and that experience for people, because the impact you create is massive.
I love it. That's great. Well, I can tell we're kindred spirits and would like to continue to stay in relationship and do business, refer business to you, and just see where it goes, because it's really hard to find smart, dedicated professionals out there, and you certainly are. And I'm very, very glad that we've met and that we're sort of continuing building this relationship. So I see a great future for us, and in this crazy market. And I think that after this election, I think people will get on with their lives, because hey, the human race has survived, an era where there was no indoor plumbing, where
right.
Where people stood up in lines and attacked each other in wars. I mean, wars and uncertain economies have just been part of the human race. And what I try to tell myself every day is that every day when I wake up, the birds are chirping, the sun's rising, and there's opportunities out there. We'll just do the best we can with what's going on, and just try to do the best we can to serve people, and just do things the right way. And I think good things happen.
Amen to that.
All right. Well, Cory King, we're going to provide some information in the show notes so that people can get a hold of you, and would love to send investors your way, because you're a great guy, and glad to know you, sir.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet.
Well, a big thank you for listening to the end of our podcast. I know your time is valuable, and I hope you got a few takeaways that are going to help you get a greater return on that time. I know you will. And if you did enjoy it, I'd sure appreciate a share or a comment. Feel free to subscribe for instant access to new episodes and offers. There's also a ton of free content and ways to learn more and engage more at worleyrealestatenetwork.com. Until then, we'll continue to bring you recipes for success and real stories from real people who, like you, are living out your divine purpose. And hey, God loves you. No matter what happens, don't give up.
Agents and builders gather and share tips on the trade, knowledge laid bare, making connections, dreams taking flight. Join us, we're soaring through day and night. So tune in and share, let inspiration flow. Cocktails and dreams, together we grow.